Hi, I'm Jeff Davis. You know, here in California, the name Mondavi is synonymous with wine and the wine industry. All of the Mondavis, including Robert, worked at Charles Krug Winery in St. Helena, Napa Valley. And some still do, including one of the guests on today's podcast, Riana Mondavi. Why don't you join us on the Wine Road and hear her story? Charles Krug Winery is part of the CK Mondavi and Family brand, which has been family-owned and run for nearly 75 years. Riana, with her sisters and cousins, represent the fourth generation, or G4, if you will. As brand ambassadors, they bring a youthful exuberance to the long-running brand. Their winemaker, Charlie Gillmore, will also join us today. You know, when you interview a Mondavi, the first question you ask yourself is, where do I begin?
Where to begin is a good question. Well, it all started back in the 40s, before I was a twinkle in my parents' eye. When my great-grandparents came into this business, they had a winery, and CK Mondavi and Family was a happy accident. An early rain came in, and they were supposed to ship grapes to home winemakers on the East Coast, and they obviously couldn't ship the wet grapes east, and so they ended up making the wine here in Napa Valley, and as a result, CK Mondavi and Family was born, and we've had it ever since, and it's always stayed the wine for every man's table, and this is a legacy that my sisters and I and my parents and my cousins were honored to be a part of, and hopefully we can keep it going for another 70 plus years.
Now, did they use the name CK Mondavi and Family back then, or was Charles Krug initially, right?
Yeah, so their first purchase was Charles Krug in 1943, and that's right in St. Helena, oldest winery in Napa Valley, and they brought it back to life after Prohibition. And CK Mondavi was, basically came from that. CK, short for Charles Krug, but Mondavi was really their way of, this is something that we've created as well, and we want to move forward with the family and make a legacy for the family. And I think clearly they've done that.
Yeah, that's kind of a household name, as you said. It's a wine for every man, every man's table. Was that what you said? Now, were you one of the ones who went off and did something else for a little while? I mentioned I talked to your father a couple of years ago, and I remember he kind of went through his daughters, and I think one was in New York, maybe? And then you and your other sister had the higher-end brand.
So we like to keep things complicated and bounce around. But there was a short period of time I actually lived in Florida and did distribution for Southern down there, Southern Wine and Spirits. And as much as I loved the distribution world, I started eyeing California and the West Coast again. And that's when I came back and started working for the family business doing sales. But I have got a little sister in Boston. She works in the finance world. Yep. Mm-hmm. My oldest sister, Angelina, is a winemaker, and she now sits on our board of directors. She's one of the first of the fourth generation to be a board of director. And then my other sister, Alicia, does brand management for some boutique brands in Napa Valley as well. And so we all kind of have bounced around a little bit, and a couple of us have made our way back to Napa. But I actually live in Dallas full-time now, too. Still working for the family business, but the job took me out there for a while.
Yeah, I think he mentioned doing a tasting out there. He was looking forward to, or had looked forward to working with you.
Yeah, Texas is a good California wine market. They love them some wine, which is awesome. And I'm actually, my full-time job, what they pay me my salary for, is Director of National Accounts on premise. So that's what keeps me busy day in and day out, for sure.
And you're the brand ambassador.
I am one of them, one of six. Our two little cousins, I shouldn't say they're little anymore, they're taller than I am, but we have Leah is the youngest, and she just turned 21 this past year, and she actually goes to Harvard for a mathematics degree. And then her older brother Lucio, who also sits on the board of directors alongside my sister for fourth generation, and he actually lives in Italy, works for a car company out there. And then my sisters and I have kind of been bouncing around as well. So, but we all collectively as fourth generation are brand ambassadors, and that really was our way of, we grew up in this industry, and knew about it, but you don't recognize what you're a part of. And as young adults, you start recognizing what you're a part of. And now we're to the point of how can we help? And so the fourth generation is really more involved now than ever before. And we're happy to be a part of it and keep the legacy going.
And the family winemakers I've talked to in the past, it's important for the children to get out and see the world and experience other things. And yes. I think it creates a greater responsibility when they do come back to the family and they've lived a little bit and now let's get serious and continue the legacy.
Yeah, it's actually a family requirement. We have to work at least 2 years for somebody else before the family will consider hiring us. So far, I'm the only fourth generation to come on as a full-time employee. But one of the important things with that is just having the knowledge and the know-how and the experience of different bosses, different companies, different methods of doing things, either in the industry or not. I mentioned my one cousin works for a car company out in Italy, in Bologna, and he's learning different types of, efficiencies and how big corporations can do it. And we don't want to be big in corporate, but we're still family owned, but there's always a way to do something a little bit better,
Well, and yeah, you can learn various techniques that you may not pick up if you just stayed in the wine industry. In a myopic view of life. And if you go out and experience things, you might get ideas like, oh, hey, this we can adopt this.
It's just all part of staying well-rounded and better informed and better experienced. So ideally when, I know I'll sucker them back into coming into the family business eventually full-time, but when they do, I think we can all feel very confident and safe that our heritage will be in good hands and we'll all be able to do it and do it together and learn from everybody else's experiences as well.
And we should say your generation has branded yourselves the G4.
We have. It's kind of funny because I was just actually at a family conference last week, and it was so funny because nobody referred to it as G3, G4, but it's all now gen, next gen, because a lot of these other family businesses, there's not many, only 4% of family businesses survive past fourth generation. So they dwindle quick. Let's put it that way. But I thought it was interesting that they said now gen versus next gen. And I posed the question of when does next gen become now gen? And so they all started laughing because a couple of them, they just started taking over for their fathers and mothers, and they're still called next gen. And I said, but you're the CEO now, so doesn't that make you now gen? They're like, well, I don't know. I didn't realize that maybe I should move up to the now gen. And so I think it keeps it a little more simple, calling it G3 and G4, so third generation versus fourth generation. And hopefully one day we'll be able to say we're, G20 or G40. We'll see. Yeah, but we've got high hopes for the future of this company, that's for sure.
It's kind of like the generational thing, too, that you've had X-Gen, Millennials, and I guess Z-Gen. It's like, well, where do you go from there? Is A-Gen coming next, or do they have to come up with another name like Millennial?
Luckily, ours is very straightforward. Just numbers. Yeah, we don't need to complicate it.
So when did the brand with the label on the bottle, CK Mondavi and Family, hit the market?
It hit the market in early 40s, mid 40s.
They've had that label or that brand ever since?
Yeah, they have. So it's been 70 plus years since we've had it, and 70 plus years of lots of different phases of the industry. It's gone through a lot and a lot of changes and adjustments with the market, so to say. But now we are more focused and more able now than ever to really go with the changes of the marketplace and what customers are looking for. We have 6 items that we do, and we do very well. Keep it focused and keep it very clear. So we've got Cab, Chard, Merlot, Pinot Grigio, Sauvignon Blanc, and Red Blend.
I was going to say, you're getting into...
I think I got all of them.
You're getting into Charles territory here, so...
Yeah, exactly. And so it's one of the cool things, though, is, there's all sorts of innovation you can do, and the way we see things right now is, what we still have so much opportunity out there and so much space to continue to show people what we do and teach them about our family and our history and the great wines that we do make, that we want to do what we have as to the best of our ability now, and then down the future, only time will tell what we can do and where we can go.
She's Riana Mondavi, one of the brand ambassadors for CK Mondavi and Family. I'll talk more with her later, but when I return, winemaker Charlie Gillmore gets a chance to share his story as we continue on the wine road. Hey, I appreciate you sticking around through the commercial. You know, that little bit of money helps pay for the gas or the petrol, depending on where you are, as I travel on the wine road. Now I'm going to swing my chair around a little bit and talk with winemaker Charlie Gillmore. Charlie's fairly new to the brand, but he has quite a history in Northern California and in parts across the globe.
Yeah, it's I've only been with CK Mondavi for a couple of years now, but I've lost track of how many harvests I've worked at this point.
And some international experience too, huh?
I spent did some internships in France and Australia. I thought, beginning of my career was really important to get to work with a number of different winemakers in different regions to see all the different points of view that, or at least get a good wide variety of points of view of making wine.
Do you have any favorite varieties that you're going to be bringing to the Mondavi portfolio?
Already, one of the things I did with the Chardonnay, we were using just a tiny bit of Muscat in the Chardonnay, and I've always liked Viognier, and we've switched out that little bit of Muscat we put in the blend to a little bit of Viognier, and I think the flavors of the Viognier marry better with what a traditional Chardonnay is.
Yeah, I would imagine that'd be a bit of a difference. You'd notice it. I mean, I don't know what percentage it is, but Viognier is certainly more floral. And
the level of Muscat that we were working with for this wine was bringing some citrus and was pushing up the fruit, but sometimes you can get sort of a muskiness from Muscat. And I felt with the wine we should get away from that and go more towards the nice white peach that you can get with Viognier. And being that it's a small percentage, it's not really moving the flavor profile of the wine that drastically. I think it's more just a little nuance.
I don't know if Riana mentioned it, but you do a blend too, kind of a Bordeaux blend. And I think I saw you have like a 1% of, was it Petit Verdot or?
The red blends, it's a blend of Cab Merlot, Petit Verdot. There's a little bit of Cab Franc and a little bit of Malbec in there.
Maybe it was at least the variety I saw, or the vintage was the Malbec. I think was really minor.
Yeah, I think the Malbec is 2% and the Cab Franc is 1%. I get these two mixed up on occasion. But definitely, I mean, those two varietals, the wines we got for this blend were really impactful. And it's something that I learned when I was in France, that sometimes a tiny little bit in a blend can make a massive difference. And we used to play with white wines when I was over there just at the end of harvest to try and put stuff together. And it was amazing, just even a 0.5%, how much it would change stuff.
I've talked about that before in the past, and it is truly amazing what little bit can make a bit of a difference. I like on the label of the CK Mondavi and Family, they have these 2-word descriptors like soft and flavorful, bright and fresh, fruity and floral, which is a great idea because I think that's how the general public pretty much describes wine, either by 1 or 2 words like that. And then when they see that, they'll know immediately what to expect.
Making wines with CK, I think it's really important to remember at our level and at any other level of winemaking that the bulk of consumers out there are really just looking to sit down and enjoy the wine, and they see it as this, cultural food, and they're not always sitting there, geeking out about the wine to, some really long extent, and they really just want something that's enjoyable and fun, that they know was made with some respect and has some authenticity to it.
Any other thoughts about some new varieties that you haven't discussed with Riana yet that you're knocking around?
We're always playing with different things, but right now we're really focusing on what we have and trying to push those wines to another level as we would in any given year to put out the best wines we can.
So, Riana, where can the consumers find CK Mondavi and Family wines?
Well, one of the beautiful things about CK Mondavi and Family is that it is widely available in a lot of various grocery stores. My job right now is getting it to various chain restaurants to make it available at restaurants for you. But the best place to taste it is at your friend's house. Most of the time you'll walk in and somebody's got it on their counter, on their dinner table. And oftentimes I go to barbecues and friends' houses and I bring it for them. So it really truly is the wine for everybody.
That's funny because I've asked that question so many times. Where can we find your wines? And no one's ever said, at your friend's house. That's great.
Well, you got to recognize there's a whole experience with a bottle of wine that you may not realize that it's happening or that you're experiencing it, but you open up a bottle and what's a few things that are almost always around? Food, friends, conversation, and honestly, sometimes just enjoying the quiet as well. Just sit there on your patio and relax, or in front of the TV and kicking back. But it really ultimately is a special experience no matter what you're doing.
How's the price point on that? Is it a little bit lower than some of the average, especially for Napa Valley prices?
It is, yeah. So we are 100% California and 100% American made in the U.S., and that's something that we are very lucky to tout, especially for the price point that we're at, because we are a larger volume wine, but it is around $5-6 in stores. And yeah, so it is extremely affordable, and it tastes varietally correct, and it goes great with food, or you can enjoy it by itself. And that's one thing that you can always count on, is the fact that we will always be unmatched quality for the value.
So that lower price point indicates that you guys have good relationships and your own vineyards to work with.
Yeah, one of the really important things when you're in the wine industry, anywhere, really any kind of farming industry, is the people growing the product that you put into your final product. It's very important that you can trust the quality that they're doing and trust the people that you're dealing with as well. We are very fortunate that my grandpa, Peter Sr., had handshake deals with a lot of grape growers in Central Valley, Lodi North, basically. And a lot of these handshake deals was, hey, we're going to buy some of your grapes and we want to come in and help you grow the best quality for what we want. And a lot of those relationships are still standing today, and they are now into their G4 of managing their vineyards, and they trust us, they respect us, and they love the fact that they can go into a grocery store and buy CK Mondavi and know that their grapes went into that bottle, and they know it's going to be a great wine, and they're proud to have helped us with that. So we also have our own vineyards that Charlie I think he's having fun getting to know the vineyards for where these grapes come from, that he has such a large part in making the top-notch quality for us. And it really just comes down to the respect and the trust of, you have this bottle, but a lot of people forget where it comes from. And those family farmers, those are some of the most important people in our lives when it comes to getting this final product onto your kitchen table.
Especially with those long relationships.
Yeah, the long relationships. I mean, I've met a couple of them, and they really are in their fourth and fifth generations even, and the handshake deals still exist. And we know that they're going to give us the best quality because they take pride in what they do just as much as we take pride in what we do.
Give me your website and other social media handles.
So you can go to our website, ckmondavi.com. Our Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest is at CK Mondavi Wines, and I think that's pretty much all of it, but definitely like us. We have a fun CK Mondavi and Family marketing tool called Pair and Post. So hashtag pair, the letter N, post, and you can develop a recipe and take a picture with CK Mondavi and Family, a bottle of it, and basically tell us the story on your post of why you think that dish goes well with it. We've had some people pair the wine with music, even, doesn't have to be food. And make sure you tag us on it. And it's a fun thing that we post all the stuff, a lot of the stuff onto the website. And so you can see other people's ideas and recipes that they come up with as well.
Or recreate them and impress your friends if you're not confident in your kitchen and wine pairing skills. Boy, it's hard to imagine you can have a Mondavi wine for $5, $6, $7. Incredible. I greatly appreciate Riana and Charlie giving me their time. If you're listening to this on iTunes, Stitcher, or another podcast provider, you can find more interviews and interesting content on my website, onthewineroad.com. I'm on Facebook as On the Wine Road and Instagram and Twitter at JD Wine Road. If you'd like to join my wine community, look for me on Patreon. There I provide compelling tidbits you won't find elsewhere, and I give you tempting incentives as a patron. That's patreon.com/onthewineroad. Patreon is Patreon. Thank you for your continued support and keeping me company on the Wine Road.